want to do a little bit of a backstory before we get into the actual review of what I think about this keyboard and tell you how we kind of came to be. So this is actually added after I edited the video, and I had to splice this back in because it's important and it's part of the story of this keyboard in general. Back around 7 or 8 years ago, I started having problems with my wrist. All kinds of issues. I had numbness in my fingers. I started going to numerous doctors. The pain had moved to my wrist, into my elbows. And the doctor said, well, this is, you have carpal tunnel syndrome. You're going to need to get surgery. And numerous rheumatologists had been consulted and basically said the same thing. I didn't want to believe that. I didn't want surgery. And so I actually ran across this keyboard from a friend of mine, the original Kinesis Advantage 2, which you'll see here in a minute, which is the original one. And then I also went for some functional massage therapy to kind of work out some tight muscles that I had in my shoulders, back, and chest. And then over the course of about 2 or 3 months, all of the pain completely went away. And so since that point in time, anytime I've stepped away from this keyboard, the original Kinesis Advantage 2, I will then slowly start to having some pains. This happens after about a week of using just a laptop keyboard. Now, I would continually post online, mainly on Twitter, just saying, hey, this is a fantastic keyboard, because people would see it in pictures, say, what is that thing? Because it looks really weird. It's just the way the concave keys are, everything. And I was a big proponent of it. I wasn't paid to say anything, wasn't paid to do anything for Kinesis. I am just a believer in the product because it has solved a major health problem for me. So I love it and just promoted it. Kinesis eventually reached out to me and said, hey, we've got a brand new version of a keyboard, which is the 360, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. And they said, we would like to send you one and see what you think. So they sent me one, and that is the keyboard that I have been using as my daily driver since the day I got it a few months ago. And this video that you're about to watch walks through my process of what I like about the keyboard and what I don't. So that's the backstory. If you're interested, that's how I got the keyboard. So let's get into the video. Okay, so in this video, I want to review the new Kinesis Advantage 360. That is this keyboard here, the new split design from Kinesis. If you're wondering what their old keyboard is, that is this keyboard. It has been my daily driver for the last many years. This is the Kinesis Advantage 2. The reason why I am talking about the brand new Kinesis Advantage 360 is because I've been a big proponent of the Kinesis brand since it helped fix a bunch of RSI issues, repetitive stress injuries, that I had on my wrists. A number of years ago, probably 6 or 7, I ran into an issue where all of a sudden my wrist would start going numb, the corner of it, and then it would tingle up these 2 fingers into the 3rd finger. Eventually, pain moved over to this hand. Both my hands started going numb. The pain moved into my wrist and elbows. I had doctors telling me I was going to need carpal tunnel surgery. Long story short, through some discussion with a few friends, I found the Kinesis Advantage 2 keyboard here, and I have been using it ever since. That, along with some functional massage therapy to work out some loose muscles that I had in my shoulders and back, all of my pain has gone away. And the only time it returns is if I go work on my keyboard on my laptop for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. Sometimes that happens if I travel. But overall, the pain has basically gone away. So I've been a big proponent of the Kinesis brand. It's a very weird looking keyboard. You do have to kind of learn how to retype, because if you look at these key wells, they are kind of deep. You can kind of tell that your hand goes in here. It's kind of deep on all these key wells. The same thing for the new 360 that we have here. The key wells are kind of divoted out there. And I like to say, think of it like a basketball. If you were to hold a basketball, how would your hands sit? That's basically how your hands are going to sit inside this keyboard. If you were to look at the keys from a top-down perspective, you're going to see the H, the J, the K, the L. That's going to be on your right hand. And what you're going to notice is those keys actually sit pretty close to where your hands sit. So the H key is going to be a little higher. The J is a little lower. The K is a little lower. And then the L starts coming back up, because that's naturally how our hands are shaped. Everybody's hands are a little bit differently, but you kind of get the point. It's concave. They call this tenting inside of the actual documentation. So each of these keyboard stands are kind of have a natural slant, and then it's tented. So you're naturally going to sit like this. If you're holding a bowling ball or a basketball, you're just going to kind of sit like this motion right here. Of course, the reason why I'm interested in the 360 is simply because of the split keyboard design. With the original keyboard, it was locked into one place. Now this worked fine, and if the 360 didn't exist, I would still be using the original Kinesis Advantage 2. However, I'm a large individual. I'm 6'4". I have very large shoulders, and that position still made my shoulders kind of roll in a little bit to a concave, kyphotic position, and I didn't want that. I'm a very big proponent on health, making sure I have proper posture, and making sure that I'm doing the right thing because I'm in front of a computer for 10, 12, 16 hours a day on certain days. So this new version of the keyboard allows me to move it around to put it wherever I want my desk so I can get in that proper form that fits my body. This is awesome. The one that I'm showing you here does have wires. They do have another one that is wireless. I just don't like charging things, so I'm using the wired one. If you want, you can use the wireless. So let's talk about a couple of the good things and the bad things, and I'll give you my overall review. So the first thing is, I already talked about the split keyboard design. That's fantastic. The second thing is, it's completely programmable. If you want the command key to be swapped with the control key, you can just hit a couple of buttons, say, hey, remap this one to this one, remap this one to this one. It comes with a bag of different keys, so here, and a key puller, so you can swap those keys. If you're a Windows person, there's Windows keys in here. If you're a Mac person, there's command keys in there, so you can swap the keys out, put the right keys in the right places that you're interested in, and you can remap it. For me, I like to remap a couple of keys, so I've done that. So it's really programmable. It kind of suits to what you want it to do, which is one of the big benefits of this keyboard. Now, the third thing actually that I really like about this is there's multiple profiles. So if we look at this, you'll see a little blue LED light there. That is the profile that I'm currently on, which means this keyboard can have many different configurations. I can go to profile 2 or 3 or whatever number it is. That LED color will change to like a green or to a different color to let me know I'm on a different profile. And then I can actually play with different key combinations. So maybe I am in one software, maybe for whatever reason, I always use a certain key combination and it makes sense if the alt and the control and everything is in one section. But when I go back to programming, I need it into a different configuration, and that makes sense over here. You can do that on this keyboard, and you can change these profiles by simply pressing change profile and select the profile you want. Boom, now the keys are mapped in that direction there. This can also work if you want to just try a different setup completely. Maybe you're like, you know what, I want to completely go different. I want to move things all over the place. And if it doesn't work, you can just go back to your other default profile and everything works as you would like it. So that's fantastic, and I really love that. Now lastly, and this one is little, but it's really important for the folks who love the mechanical keyboards, and that's the key click sound. So I recorded a little video, and you can take a look, listen to what the key clicking sounds like here. Pretty good. It's, you know, if a lot of people like other different types of sounds, but for this keyboard, it is great. I know they use a standard key in here. Forgive me for whatever it is. I'm not a humongous keyboard person, meaning the sounds and the keycap types and stuff like that. But I know that they do use one of the more popular ones. I think it's maybe Cherry Brown is I think what it's called. Forgive me on that one. But the key clicking sound is great. Sounds perfect. It's not too overly loud. It's just an enjoyable sound. So that's the good stuff. There's a lot more good things you can do on here. You can do all different kinds of programming. You can do remapping. You can record macros. You can do a number of things. You can get into that. We'll get into that at a different time if you're interested. Now let's talk about the bad. And thankfully, there's only a couple of things that I don't like about this keyboard. And the first is the split. Now you might be thinking, but you just told me you like the split. Why? Exactly. The reason why I don't like the split is because sometimes I might bump the keyboard and it moves out of place, and now I got one keyboard over here, one over there. So it does sometimes take me a little bit of a fraction of a second or two to move it back into place. It's not that big of a deal. It's really me just being nitpicky if I'm trying to find something I don't like about it. I really don't mind it that much. If I had a problem with it, I could just put a little piece of tape, or I could put a little mark on my table and say, hey, here's where the corner of it goes, and I could set it up quickly. However, if you like your keyboard to remain constant, always in the same location, they do provide you with a bridge connector here, and that will allow you to lock the two pieces together. I tried it. It was too narrow for me because my shoulders, and made me start collapsing my shoulders a bit. So I don't use the bridge connector, but it does come with it. So if you're interested in just kind of locking them together, it gives a little space in the middle still. You can use that. Now, the thing that I really don't like about this keyboard, and that I struggled with a little bit at the beginning, was there's no function row. Now, if we look at the Kinesis Advantage 2, we're going to see up top here, we're going to see there are some function keys up at the top. The 360 does not have this function keys at all. So we can see here there's no function keys, and I'll show you on another video here. You can see there's no function keys on this keyboard. However, that doesn't mean that they are removed. You still have access to the function keys. You just have to press a modifier key to access these keys. So it did take some learning and getting used to actually pressing this function modifier, especially if it's a multiple type of function thing. Maybe I need to press Alt F7 in one of my programs. Well, now I have to press function Alt F7. So it is another key press that I have to do. That is a little annoying. I am not a big fan of that thing, but it does work. The other confusing part is if you look at this keyboard right here, you'll see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The function modifier, when pressed, underneath that key on the side of it, you can see it right here. It'll show you when you press this button which function key it's going to do. Now if you press number 1, that's actually function 2. You press number 5, that's actually function 6. So this threw my brain for a loop for quite a while trying to get used to it, and I got really frustrated with it, and I didn't like it that much. If I were to make this keyboard perfect, I would add the function row back. But I understand they're going for a minimal design. I have now gotten used to it. I know where the function keys are at, and I can pretty much fly around it with almost the same speed that I can with the Kinesis Advantage 2. So that's really all I have for the things that I don't like about it. What is my thoughts on the keyboard itself? I am a big proponent of it. I think it's a great keyboard. The difference between the Advantage 2 and the 360 is the wells here on the keyboard. The key wells are actually kind of deeper on the Advantage 2. These are a little more shallow. Now that's not a huge problem, but I have noticed that on the 360 I do type a little bit slower. I'm not exactly sure why. When I move to the Advantage 2, I do type faster. My main job as a software engineer, I'm not trying to write a ton of words at once, so it's not a big deal. However, I do also write a lot of blog articles and books and documentation. So sometimes when I do need to type, I do find myself being a little bit slower on the 360. It's not a game changer, but I have noticed it. So again, that's just me nitpicking it. But overall, I think it's a fantastic keyboard because you can set it up in the position that you want. It'll help remove the RSI issues that you have, and it just works great. It's a nice minimalistic keyboard, and if you actually get the one without the wires, like I don't mind the wires, you have a very clean desk where it's just 2 keyboard components there, and there you go, and that's it. So if you're looking for a good keyboard for ergonomics and so forth, check out the Kinesis 360. It's a good one. You can also still use the Advantage 2 as well. Both these keyboards are fantastic. I highly recommend them if you are suffering from any type of repetitive stress injury on your hands, your wrists, everything is hurting. You feel like you're going numb in your fingers. You need to check these keyboards out. Yes, you're going to look at the price and you're going to be like, that much for a keyboard? But if you think about it, like that's not much versus going for surgery and everything else that you might have to deal with if you were to solve this medically. So in my book, worth its weight in gold. I have 2 of these, and now I have one of these 360s. Worth every single penny. Be sure to check it out. I'll put some links down in the description where you can check out both of these keyboards. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll do my best to help you out.